Crypto is back. Investors once again optimistic that the SEC is going to potentially approve the spot Ethereum ETF. So what's ahead and how much further maybe can this rally that we've seen in crypto go? Who better to ask than our very own Anthony Scaramucci? He's the founder of Skybridge Capital and author of the new book, From Wall Street to the White House and Back. Congratulations on the new book, Anthony.
Thank you. I brought copies for you.
Oh, thank you. We were hoping you would.
The rule is it doesn't have to go to your house, but it can't come back to mine, okay? I got too many books in the basement.
It'll come to our houses. I'm confident of that.
I've got my yearbook picture from 1982 on the front
cover. Looking good. You're looking good in that picture.
It takes a lot of money to airbrush a picture like that. So, because I was reading, it's sort of odd to me that we're in a state of politicization of our regulatory system. Years ago it was what is right or wrong for the country, how are we going to stimulate growth, how are we going to create transparency for investors and give investors a full understanding of the risk. Now we're like either hard right regulatory environment or hard left regulatory environment as opposed to left and right or wrong. And Gary Gensler is an example. I work with him at Goldman Sachs. He has taken the politics of this full hog, and so it's disappointing for us on Wall Street. Because years ago, and there's a great book on this, Diana Henriquez wrote a book called Taming the Street. Years ago when they created the SEC, they went to the industry, the legislators, the regulators, the administrators, and they worked together to create the system that has been very successful in the United States for 90 plus years.
Are we starting to see, though, a bit of a sea change, though, in Washington when you take a look at the fact that at least the street is a bit more optimistic that we are going to get some sort of approval? You have the House considering this legislation. You have the Senate pushing back on some of the regulation here. There does seem to be more bipartisan support here for crypto. So are we starting to see maybe that narrative change inside Washington?
I hope so. Yeah. The problem is you have people that are in their 70s and 80s. Some of them are even closing in on 90. That are running this thing, and so they really don't have a full understanding of what's going on. Mike Novogratz said something to me yesterday, which I'll share with you guys. There are 85 million people in this country that own crypto in one form or another. There are 65 million dog owners. So you have more crypto owners than you have dog owners. I mean, just imagine a politician saying, I'm anti-dog. How would that go down, okay, with the body politic? So I think the Biden administration is looking at polling data and recognizes that younger people, Hispanic community, African American community are in crypto. You guys really want to go that hard against crypto? I don't think it makes sense from a electoral perspective. And I would have predicted, and of course I get so many things wrong and I write about how many things I've gotten wrong in my life in that book, but if you had said to me in 2023, what's going to happen presidential-wise in 2024, I would have said both candidates will be pro-crypto because they're not going to lose any votes being pro-crypto, but they might lose some votes, particularly from younger people being anti-crypto.
But we are seeing that both of them are pro-crypto, just to jump in here. And
the Biden administration is pro-crypto?
Well, you came on our show and said that he was previously. Do you not think that anymore?
The Biden administration.
Right.
No, I think that what I said, I hope I said it correctly. If I didn't, I got to correct myself. I said the president himself is agnostic to positive on crypto. When we talk and sit down with the members of us in the crypto community, Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren are decidedly anti-crypto, and he's allowed them to control the regulatory reins. That could be changing. I mean, I think that's the point, and that's why the Wall Street's optimistic about the Ethereum ETF. There could be a signal coming from the president and his team, particularly the campaign, that this may be a mistake, the direction that we're going in.
Well, do you think that the fact that we are in an election cycle, you've got Biden and Trump both making it a political football, do you think that makes the approval of the spot ETH ETF more likely?
I do. And if you had asked me that last week, because he brought me on last week, I said there's no way this ETF is going to get approved. Because it's going to open up a Pandora's box for other types of ETFs, a Solana ETF, an Avalanche ETF, et cetera. Why would those be excluded if Ethereum is included? And so I do think there's a sea change, and I think you saw it literally this week. The market was blah, and then all of a sudden we had a 10% move in stuff, 20% move in Ethereum.
So then where does that leave this, going back to what Maddie asked just a moment ago, Biden versus Trump, is one better than the other today for crypto? Sounds like it would be Trump, maybe.
I'm obviously supporting President Biden. We'll have to get into that in a second. You're asking me a specific question. I think President Trump has very good political instincts. He was anti-crypto as president. You can see tweets that he said, anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto. He came out about 10 days ago and said he's pro-crypto now. And I think he is probably going to tug the Biden campaign into the pro-crypto camp. Okay, I think they come reluctantly. And again, the president, you're correct, agnostic on it, but it's really some of the people like that work for Gary Gensler or Elizabeth Warren.
Which has more staying power, though? Should voters be concerned about a waffling from either candidate once the election's over?
And it's a good question, but I don't think so, because I think younger people like the two of you are coming into power. And those older people, I mean, I think, I don't know, was Chuck Rangel like George Washington's great-grandfather or something like that? He's still in the Congress. I mean, guys, give up the reins, let younger people run this thing, and I think the younger people will modify this. And remember, the regulators did not want Uber. Go back 10, 12 years ago, regulators, legislators were fighting Uber, but you know who wanted Uber? The people wanted Uber. And thank God in a country like this, the people still win out.
So let's turn our conversation a bit and talk about the big story of the day, and that is Nvidia. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Just market at current valuations. You've got lots riding on this report. There certainly has been a lot of hype about what we are going to hear and see from Nvidia after the bell. How big of a bellwether is it for the market? And what does it ultimately mean here just in terms of the larger story, the more macro story that's playing out within the markets today?
So I've said this consistently, that we own it. We like it. We like AI. Could it be overvalued? Could it be in a crowded trade? Yes, we could be. But I want to just point out to people, if you're a long-term holder, you're going to benefit from these great companies like Nvidia. You know, if you took Amazon, go back 25 years, 10 periods of time down at least 20, one period of time down 80. The very famous Jeff Bezos letter in the year 2000 when he was writing about the demolition of his stock, but yet the improvement of fundamentals. Nvidia is growing and evolving. Could it have a short-term impact on the market here? No question. Do we own it? We own it. Are we staying in it? Yes. And, you know, I just point out to people that are listening, there's a guy named Warren Buffett. He made a 70-year bet on America. Sometime in 1954, he decided, you know what, I'm getting long America. I'm getting long super high-quality companies. I'm going to take this ride with America. And I think people have to start thinking like that again. Nvidia is one of those names. I think if you hold it over the next decade, you're going to be very well rewarded.
I know a year ago we spoke and you said regarding the Fed from a macro perspective that they would declare victory around 4% inflation. We've seen them very much so not do that. They're sticking to that 2% goal. What do you think that does for risk assets, for the tech trade, including names like Nvidia?
Okay, so you're right. They are jawboning people and telling the people they're going to go to 2%. But when you really look at the data, I think they cut rates well before they get to those targets. And so I'm still in the 2, possibly 3 camp this year. Hopefully you guys will invite me back to either prove me right or wrong on that. But the reason I'm saying that is they have this debt bullet. They're staring down the barrel of a debt bullet. You don't want to get the U.S. in a situation where we're spending $1.5 to $2 trillion on interest payments. We're upside down right now. 27% of the GDP is in federal spending. 6 to 7% of it is in deficit spending. If alarm bells are not going off at the Fed, or if you're looking at the economic dashboard of the country and seeing this imbalance, this is wild deficit spending for a nation at full employment with these wage numbers.
Well, let's talk about the book, because I'm curious about your thoughts on how it ties to the election. The new book, From Wall Street to the White House and Back Here. I'm curious, what is one thing that you know from your time in the White House about President Trump that you think that voters should know heading into November?
Listen, there's 40 of us. I was with Secretary Esper this week. I was with General Milley. General Kelly is a personal friend of mine. There are 40 of us that have spoken out about the danger of Donald Trump returning to the White House. The vice president of the United States for the 4 years prior. Mike Pence has spoken out about this. He was on the ballot with the president. So I submit to the two of you and your viewers and listeners, if we worked at a car company and we told you the car was not manufactured properly, it was going to blow up and kill your family, are you getting in the car? If we worked at a pharmaceutical company and told you, that, that pill's going to kill you. So you've got 40 people that were in the cabinet, sub-cabinet, assistants to the president, are telling you how dangerous he is, or telling you how unpredictable he is, how irrational the decision-making is. He's also stating publicly, he used in his advertising recently the words unified Reich. I mean, who does that in the United States? He's saying publicly that he wants to deport 15 million people. Okay, you just got to stop and think about what he's saying. He wants to go after people like you guys in the media. If you don't agree with him, he has said publicly he wants to pull FCC licenses from people that don't agree with him. He told two of his defense attorneys, both of which left his defense, that he wants to use the FBI as the Gestapo. Now, the good news is he doesn't understand history, he doesn't read books, he doesn't even know what that word means, the Gestapo. So we got a lot of people on Wall Street that like him. They think that the short-termism of those business policies are going to help the country. But what has been great about this country is the predictabilities of the law and the subordination of all of us to the law. And the founder set up a system that said no one person could have that amount of power. And so he talks about unitary executive power, and he's got guys on his team from the Heritage Foundation but believe in that. So go read about unitary executive power and read their 1,000-page plan for what they want to do for America, and it's going to make America different than the country we grew up in. And so I will take policies from the Biden administration that I disagree with, and I'll sweat out those policies, okay, in order to get to a younger, smarter, center-right candidate.
So, Anthony, I'm going to ask you, because when you take a look at the polls right now, his messaging...
That was about as diplomatic as I've ever been,
That was
by the
very...
way, okay?
We're impressed.
I mean, if this was like MSNBC, I would have probably been hitting him a lot harder. I just want to point that out.
But why is it, though, his messaging still registering with voters? And then what does that ultimately tell us about what the messaging should be at this point, maybe more so from the Biden administration?
Listen, the Biden administration is placating the hard left. You got to give President Trump credit. He's moving to the middle. He is, and even his hard right wants to ban abortion in the country. They want to stop IVF. He knows this. He's out there saying, "Hey, we got to cut that nonsense out." So, President Trump, former President Trump, tacking to the middle. The Biden administration is still placating the hard left. It's a very big mistake for them. And this is why the sentiment has changed in favor of President Trump.
All right, Anthony Scaramucci, we wish we had more time. Thanks so much for joining us
This
here.
was almost as long as my White House tenure. I'm very happy.
Founder of Skybridge Capital, and
you.
also congratulations on your new book, From Wall Street to the White House and Back. We really appreciate the time.
Good to be here with you guys. Thank you.